James wasn't the same when he returned from the works. He trudged along with slow trains, hardly saying anything to anyone. When the day was done, he'd retire to the shed and fall asleep without a word. "I knew the express was important to him," Boko remarked to Edward. "But not to this extent. Even the prospect of pulling Dowager Hat's special excursion didn't shake him from his stupor." Edward was worried, so he spoke to Sir Topham Hatt. A few days later, James found himself working at Edward's station. He shunted in the yard and took Boko's branch line trains while the diesel pulled the express. Unfortunately, it didn't have the effect Edward had hoped for.
"Disgraceful!"
James grunted.
"Imagine pulling the express one week and being confined to a branch line the next." "Oh, come now, James,"
smiled Edward.
"I'm certainly glad you're here. And besides, it's a nice change of pace."
"A fall from grace, if you ask me," grumbled James, and he bumped some trucks hard. Now, for all his kindness, Edward had a tendency to be impatient. This was especially true when it came to his own trains. He hated being late. He wasn't as fast as the other engines and didn't like having to make up for lost time. Though he tried to be understanding, Edward's patience was wearing thin. James refused to bank trains up Gordon's Hill and was sluggish with shunting. Time and time again, Edward was left picking up the slack.
"And what time do you call this?"
fussed Daisy as Edward bustled into the junction.
"I'm sorry. As I'm now late, I've no time for excuses,"
glared Daisy.
"I suggest you not make this a habit, my dear. The Fat Controller won't like it."
He didn't, and after more delayed trains, he told Edward as such. Not wanting to make James feel worse, he took the blame upon himself.
"I'm sorry, sir,"
Edward sighed.
"It won't happen again."
When Edward returned, he found his yard in disarray. He had a sinking feeling it would happen again. He frowned when he saw James sulking around.
"We do have a timetable, you know." "Pah!"
snorted James.
"It's just a branch line. Not like there's an express to keep to." "That's quite enough,"
interrupted Edward.
"There's more to life than the express. You're not even trying to keep things in order. I expect trains on my branch to be timely. If you can't do that, go back to sulking in your shed."
Before James could reply, Henry arrived with the express and whistled for a banker.
"Don't worry, I'll get it,"
said Edward sharply.
Come on, come on,"
he huffed, hastily pushing the train up the hill.
"Oh, I say, settle down back there,"
grumbled Henry.
"Not so fast, not so fast,"
groaned the coaches. At last, Henry was over the hill, and Edward hurried back to the station. Meanwhile, the trucks had noticed the look of guilt on James's face.
"It's been lovely knowing you all, but I'll be bound for the scrapyard if this horrid thing keeps pushing me around,"
said one. "Takes a lot to upset Edward," commented a second.
"Couldn't cut it as an express engine. He's not much of a shunter either,"
laughed another.
"That's enough,"
snapped James. With a hard bump, the trucks rolled out of the siding and onto the main line. At that moment, Edward appeared. He didn't see the signal or the trucks fouling the line.
Oh dear.
Soon, Donald arrived with the breakdown train and Sir Topham Hatt. I am disappointed in you, James. Edward asked me to send you here to take your mind off your mishap. This is not a kind way to thank him. I expect you'll pull your weight while Edward is inspected. Do I make myself clear? James was ashamed, and the message was crystal clear. James worked the hardest he had all week, tidying up the yard and banking trains while Edward was looked over.
I'm sorry, Edward,
he said in the shed that night.
I've been nothing but a nuisance since I arrived. That accident could have been avoided if I had not been so hasty. I'm sorry for being short. I know these changes have been hard for you,
replied Edward.
Well,
added James sadly,
if I can't handle simple shunting or branch line trains, maybe I don't deserve the express. Tomorrow seems like a perfect chance for a fresh start,
smiled Edward.
There is a passenger train to take, and my coaches would be thrilled to be pulled by a mainline engine.
For the first time in days, James smiled. A fresh start was just what he needed.